Welcome back everyone, to Nation of Glory, the home of passion, pain, and the pursuit of greatness. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most unique, fearless, and misunderstood souls in the world of professional wrestling. A man who doesn't just wrestle, he lives and breathes the chaos. A man who paints half his face to remind himself of what he lost, and what he fights for every single night. This is the story of Darby Allin, the man who turned tragedy into fuel, fear into art, and pain into power. If you've ever felt broken, hopeless, or lost in the shadows, stay tuned. Because this isn't just a wrestling story. This is a story about survival, rebellion, and the unbreakable spirit of a man who refused to give up, even when life tried to crush him. Darby Allin wasn't born into fame. He wasn't handed opportunities. He built himself from concrete, from scars, from skateboards, and from the wild energy of punk music and rebellion. But to understand Darby, we've got to go back. Back to a small town in Washington, where a quiet, creative kid named Samuel Ratsch grew up, already feeling different from the rest of the world. Darby was always the outsider. He didn't fit the mold, didn't want to be normal, didn't want to blend in. While other kids talked about careers and futures, Darby just wanted to feel alive. But life had a cruel way of testing that. When Darby was just a teenager, he was involved in a tragic car accident, one that would change him forever. His uncle, who was behind the wheel, was drunk. The car crashed, and his uncle didn't make it. Darby survived, but not without deep emotional scars. He said that from that day forward, half of him died in that crash. And that's why he paints half his face, black and white, symbolizing the part of him that's alive and the part that will never come back. For most people, that kind of trauma would end the story. But for Darby, it started one. He refused to let his pain define him. Instead, he decided to live for the moments his uncle never could. That's why he does what others won't. Why he takes risks no one else dares to. Why he throws his body like it's made of steel, when it's really made of spirit. Before wrestling, Darby chased the thrill of skateboarding. It was freedom. It was expression. Every jump, every fall, every bruise was a reminder that he was still alive. He lived like there was no tomorrow, because in his mind, he already lost yesterday. But deep down, there was still something missing. A purpose. A way to channel all that chaos, all that emotion, into something bigger. That's when professional wrestling came into his life. He saw it, not just as a sport, but as art. A stage where pain had meaning. Where every fall, every slam, every moment of silence in the crowd could be turned into something beautiful. Darby trained relentlessly. He didn't have the perfect build, he wasn't the biggest guy in the room, but what he had was heart. Unmatched, unbreakable heart. He trained in the most rugged conditions, with no guarantees, no big-name sponsors, just a dream, and a will to make it real. He started wrestling in small indie promotions, tiny crowds, no spotlights, sometimes barely getting paid enough for gas money. But every night, he gave everything. He wrestled like his life depended on it, because in many ways, it did. And the world started to notice. Darby Allin's style wasn't like anyone else's. He was reckless, but poetic. Wild, but precise. He'd throw himself off ladders, crash through tables, fly through ropes, not for shock value, but to show that he had nothing left to fear. His moves weren't just about winning matches, they were messages. Pain doesn't own me, I own it. Then came Evolve Wrestling, where Darby began building his name. Across the independent scene, his performances were unforgettable, and soon, people were talking. The energy, the attitude, the originality. Darby wasn't pretending to be anyone else. He was real. And in 2019, that realness caught the attention of something massive, All Elite Wrestling. AEW was new. It was fresh. It was the alternative wrestling fans had been waiting for. And Darby Allin, he was the perfect symbol of that rebellion. When Darby debuted in AEW, fans didn't just see a new wrestler, they saw a revolution. The skateboard, the face paint, the attitude, everything screamed individuality. He wasn't there to play by anyone's rules. He was there to rewrite them. His first big moment came against Cody Rhodes. A young man versus a legacy. No one expected Darby to stand toe-to-toe with one of the biggest names in wrestling. But he didn't just stand, he flew, he fought, and he made people believe. That night, even though it ended in a draw, Darby Allin arrived. From that point, Darby wasn't just a name, he was a statement. He represented every kid who felt overlooked. Every dreamer who'd been told they weren't big enough, strong enough, or normal enough. Darby was the voice of the misunderstood. Then came the rise, the AEW TNT Championship. The underdog finally holding gold. Twice, in fact. But what made those wins special wasn't the belt, it was the journey. The way Darby earned respect not through words, but through pain, persistence, and authenticity. He didn't win with politics, he won with passion. And just when people thought he'd reached his peak, something happened that no one expected: Sting. The icon himself saw something in Darby, a reflection, maybe even a younger version of his own rebellious spirit. Their bond became one of the most beautiful stories in modern wrestling. Two generations, two souls from different eras, united by respect and darkness. Sting didn't just mentor Darby, he believed in him. And Darby gave that belief everything he had. Their partnership brought magic to AEW. When Sting and Darby entered the arena together, it wasn't just a match, it was theater. It was emotion. It was legacy meeting evolution. And then came another milestone, the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Darby's first tag title, alongside the man who believed in him. It was poetic. The kid who grew up feeling like half of him was gone, now whole again, standing next to his mentor, holding gold, proving that pain doesn't end your story, it writes it. But even with success, Darby never changed. He still shows up in old clothes, drives in a beat-up car, and lives simply. Why? Because fame never mattered to him. Meaning did. He's said in interviews that he doesn't want to wake up one day and realize he lived someone else's dream. He wants to live his. And that's what makes Darby so different. He's not playing a character, he is the character. Everything you see in the ring is who he truly is outside of it. The skateboards, the stunts, the fearlessness, that's not for show. That's Darby Allin, the human embodiment of, I don't care what anyone thinks, I'm going to live my truth. Even when injuries hit, and they hit hard, Darby never slows down. He's had broken bones, concussions, bruises that would end careers. But every time he's down, he gets back up. Because to him, pain isn't a reason to stop, it's a reminder that he's still fighting. Outside the ring, Darby's an artist, a filmmaker, and a storyteller. He directs his own short films, raw, strange, and deeply personal. They're not about fame, they're about emotion. About showing the world that art can come from darkness. He's said that his goal isn't to be remembered as the best wrestler, but as the most real. And that's why people love him. Because Darby Allin represents authenticity in a world full of filters and masks. He's the guy who says, you don't have to fit in to make it. You just have to be yourself, completely. For fans, he's more than a wrestler. He's a symbol, a reminder that no matter what life throws at you, you can always get back up. You can always create something beautiful out of your pain. Every time Darby dives off a ladder, crashes through a barricade, or throws himself into danger, it's not recklessness. It's message. He's telling the world, I'm not afraid to fall, because I've already been at the bottom. And I know I can rise. Even as AEW grows, and the spotlight gets bigger, Darby stays grounded. He still rides his skateboard through the arenas, still drives his old car, still lives by his own rules. That's what makes him untouchable, not his fame, but his freedom. And in a world where so many people chase acceptance, Darby Allin shows us that real strength comes from accepting yourself. He's not perfect, and that's what makes him powerful. He's flawed, scarred, and human. And yet, he's unstoppable. From the tragic night that could have ended everything, to the bright lights of AEW, Darby Allin's story proves one thing. It's not how hard you fall. It's how real you rise. So if you're ever doubting yourself, if you've ever felt like life hit you too hard, or like you don't fit in, remember Darby Allin. Remember the kid who painted his pain on his face and turned it into strength. Remember that you don't need to be the biggest, the loudest, or the most popular, you just need to be you. Because sometimes, being different isn't your weakness, it's your superpower. Darby Allin didn't just become a wrestling icon. He became a symbol of defiance. A living reminder that no matter how broken you feel, you can always build something beautiful out of the pieces. And that, right there, is the true glory. Thanks for watching, this is Nation of Glory. If you felt this story, if it inspired you, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and of course, subscribe for more powerful stories from the world of wrestling, art, and passion. Because here, on Nation of Glory, we don't just tell stories. We celebrate souls. See you in the next one.